Hey, good evening. It is so good to be back again. Gosh, it's 3 times in 1 week. That's a record for me inside this group. It's been really nice to get to know some of you better. In fact, it's been really lovely to see that quite a few people have come to each session so far. And so for those people, and I'm sure there's going to be more doing that on the replay. I don't want to discount you guys on the replay. Welcome. For those people who are doing all three, I'm excited for you. I'm excited at what you are going to be doing for your life and for your family. So tonight, I'm actually feeling pretty light and breezy tonight because straight after this, I'm actually heading out for the weekend with Jordan for our 19th wedding anniversary. Hard to believe that next year is going to be our 20th. Makes me feel a little bit old. We're just going to go up the beach in our van and just chill and spend some time together. So I hope you've been enjoying these training sessions this week. If you are here live, please say hello. I have put a link in tonight's description. I made sure it was there. I didn't get it there last time. And if your name's not showing up for me, if you can just click the link in the description of this video, then it will allow this streaming software to show me your name. And because I'm streaming both to YouTube and the Facebook group, it's just one of those things that we have to do each time. It's a bit annoying, but it only takes a second. So please say hi. It's good to see people joining. Hello, hello. So on Monday night, we spoke about family meals, my family's go-to recommendations for breakfast and dinner and snacks and all the rest of it. Today, you should have received your free recipe ebook download to go with that, with all the recipes. It was a mammoth mission to make, so I hope you like it. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoy it. And yesterday, we did training number 2 because of the glitch the other night. We did it yesterday. And we dove into the topic of all about you and reclaiming you for those women who are feeling depleted and burnt out. And I tell you what, there's a lot of us. There is a lot of us feeling that way. And because it's been my pet topic of the last little while, but at least 12 months more significantly, where I've had to bring myself out of burnout because of stress and allowing stress to become such a familiar friend in my life. The tools that I used to get myself out, I shared some of those with you yesterday, and today you get to see the rest. Today's training is all about basically it's a week in the life of my family and me, and it is also it's a little bit revealing again. I feel like I'm just bearing my soul this week. So we're actually I'm going to be showing you my weekly schedule schedule. I say that very loosely. It's more of a rhythm that just creates the room in my week to get, I guess, to put the big rocks first. Let me talk about big rocks for a second. Just before we do that, I wasn't able to send out a reminder to anyone because you can only send out one message a day on Messenger when people opt in. And I did that to send out the downloads. So I'm thinking that most people are probably going to watch the replay when I send it around tomorrow. So for those of you who are live, you get to ask as many questions as you want tonight because there's not a whole lot of you here so far. So if you have particular questions at all, we are going to do a dedicated Q&A next week on Monday lunchtime. But if you have questions about the content as we're going along tonight, sing out in the chat box because I am here for you. And no one said hello yet. Please say hi so I know who I'm talking to. That'd be awesome. Okay. What I wanted to do before we get into it is just acknowledge the fact that a lot of people are telling me that they feel like they're failing. The good news is that you are definitely not a failure. Parenting is not for the faint of heart. Like, who signs up for this anyway? Joke. Sometimes we just need to be reminded of our worth. You are really important. You're important to more people than you realize. You are in a very unique position as a parent, obviously. We are strong and we are capable and gentle enough to be an effective change maker for our children. But what I really wanted to drive home this week is that we really can be change makers in our own life. The way that I wish I didn't have to frame it this way, but I think it's true for a lot of women that it's easier to make changes in your life because you know it's going to benefit your children rather than yourself. And sometimes I like to flip it around. I think of my mother looking at me as her daughter in the same way that I look at my daughter. And if I was in the next generation, if I was my mum's age, looking at one of my daughters as a grown woman, and she was living the way that I was living before I decided to put myself as number one and put myself as a priority and create room on the schedule for me, it would break my heart. And when I look at myself as a daughter and in the eyes of my daughter, then it makes it a lot easier too. So one of my messages this week is I really want you to be able to claim the ability to put yourself as one of your priorities. One of you, like, for me, it had to just become number one or it didn't happen. So you are really the only one equipped with the tools that you need to turn your life around and equipped with the tools to turn your children's life around and make meaningful pivots in the trajectory of your quality of life and your health. And you really are well equipped and it really is possible. And as I have loved to now say, as I've taken this comment from the Reconnected Gals, you really are doing the best with what you have available to you. We spoke about that yesterday. Hello. I'm not sure who said hello, but thank you for saying hello. Okay, now before we get into the meaty stuff, I actually wanted to bring along some props. I wanted to bring along one of my big jars and some big rocks and some pebbles and some sand. And you may know where I'm going with this. I'm going to briefly just talk about it rather than show it because I forgot to get the stuff right before I went live. I remembered. Do you know the story of where the professor at university pulled out a great big empty jar, and then he pulled out a big pile of big rocks and a pile of little pebbles, and then also a volume of sand. And as he started to fill up the glass jar with the big rocks, he asked the class, "Is the jar full?" And of course they said, "Yeah, it's full." And so then he poured in the smaller pebbles into the jar and he shook the jar around and the pebbles kind of fell down and filled up the cracks between the big rocks in the jar. And he said, "Now is the jar full?" And the class said, "Oh, okay, yes, now it is full. Yes, professor." And then, of course, he grabbed the sand and he poured it in and the sand went and just filled up all the tiny little cracks sort of in between those pebbles. And of course, the class laughed and said, "Okay, yes, haha, yes, now it really is full." That is basically the concept that I really want to communicate tonight. And I know it's a concept that you're familiar with, that inside you already know, but we just need reminders. We need these touch points in life to just keep us on our merry way and sometimes to really give us a sharp turn in life. And if that's what you need at the moment is that sharp turn to reclaim yourself, then I'm glad that we're talking. So of course, that jar represents your life. The big rocks signify the really important things like your health, like your family, like your friends. The pebbles represent, the other things that matter, like work and school. And the sand is the remaining small stuff, like material possessions and, stuff that's nice to have, but is not really the most important thing in life. And if we reverse the order to fill that jar, if we fill that jar with sand first and then the pebbles, there is not enough room for all the big rocks at all. And it's quite a funny thing to show kids. As if you're ever teaching this principle to children, it's an awesome object lesson. And the same principle applies to our life, of course. If we spend too much time on the small stuff, you just don't have enough space to focus on the things that are truly important. And so we want to be prioritizing the big rocks in our life first. We want to be practicing self-care. We want to be spending time with the people you love. And the rest, of course, you've got to prioritize identify your own big rocks and pebbles, but the rest is just sand and pebbles, and they will always find some space amongst life. So I want to ask you right now, what are your big rocks? Because that's going to help us as we go through this session tonight. I want you to have identified what your big rocks are. And they might not be the same as mine, and that's totally okay. I just want you to do a bit of a brain dump. What are your big rocks in life? Thank you to the other person that said hello. Okay, so I'm going to keep an eye on that comment box. I want to see some big rocks coming through, okay? So before we start, because I'm going to show you my schedule, and it's going to have a lot on there, but I just want to say something before I do. I do not do it all. Someone emailed me and they said, Lainey, how do you do it all? How do you nourish your family and look after yourself and do the extracurricular activities and work and run around after the kids and do the sick days for the kids and do the school, listed out all the different things that we as parents do in life. And I just want to say that I don't do it all. Nobody does it all. I don't have a super clean house most of the time. I don't bake my bread from scratch. Although, actually, saying that, my daughter, 13-year-old, she's just decided she wants to go gluten-free to help address some sinus issues that she's been having. Finally, been trying to convince her to do it for a couple of years and try it out. So I am actually going to be making some bread soon, but it's more of a necessity than a want. I don't even do much baking at all these days. So there's a lot of things that I don't do in life. But what I have learned to do, at least, you continue to learn these things, but is to keep the main thing the main thing. And when you put those important things in life as number one, like I said yesterday, it just astounds me how different life feels, how much extra time you just seem to get. It's irrational. It doesn't make sense, but somehow it just happens. But that analogy that I shared just before about the jar with the big rocks, the pebbles and the sand, I guess that is exactly, what I'm saying here is that when you put the first things first in life, somehow you just have this extra time to fit in the sand and the pebbles, but the other way around just doesn't work. Big rocks, pebbles, sand. Remember that. So tonight we're talking about how we can fit the big rocks into your life. Are you ready to keep the main thing, to put first things first, to reap the benefits of living life based on principles and of things of most value? And if you're ready for that, let me know and we'll dig in. I'm feeling a bit lonely in the comment box tonight, you guys. I know there's less people here than usual, but if you're available, you might not have any hands. You might be rocking. You might be doing bedtime with the kids or whatever. I understand. But if you're available, drop me a hello and engage with me tonight. That would be awesome. All right. Now, if you joined me for training number 2 yesterday, you'll know that out of necessity, my biggest rock right now has to be recovering from a place of depletion due to living my life with my 2 besties called adrenaline and cortisol for 10 years. If you didn't catch me for the last video, I went through an epic 10-year survival mode where I completely burnt out. My hormones were super imbalanced, which caused a cascade of effects in my life. Stress caused gut permeability. Stress caused my adrenals to absolutely crash and burn. So there were quite a few things that were affecting me, and all because of stress. After investigation, stress was the only thing that could have possibly caused those things for me. So it wreaked havoc for me, and it was a big lesson for me. And therefore, it has triggered this embarkment, is that a word? Into a season of life that I have called Project Lainey. Everyone works differently. I know everyone's brains are wired differently. Mine seems to thrive on a project. If I if I'm calling something a project, it means that I kind of get obsessive about that project. My sister is forever at me trying to convince me that I have ADHD, like she has, and it's quite possible. Who knows? But I just knew that I needed to give it a name, and I needed to prioritize it as number one. And I just needed to kind of not obsess over it, but I really needed to put it as number one. So Project Lainey is where I've been for the last while. And so slowly over time, I identified the things I needed to put in place for self-care and put it into Project Lainey. Thank you. We've got some big rocks coming through. Someone has said nourishing food for myself and my family is a big rock. Quality time with family is a big rock. And care for myself with exercise and other self-care. I love it. Yep, they are definitely big rocks that I share with you. So if you did the homework for training number 2, and if you weren't there, it's okay. I have sent you, if you've registered for this free training series, I have sent you a workbook and a replay. So please go back and do that after tonight. And tonight's training will make more sense once you have. But definitely stick with me tonight. You don't, it's not an absolute necessity to do it, but you do need to do it. So in yesterday's training, we did the empowered mind session and in the workbook, it went into more detail. And that's where you can identify the things you need to take you where you want to go. And through that session, we also identified where it is that we want to go. And so there's not a whole lot of point doing what I'm going to show you tonight, which is, the little bits and pieces that get you where you want to go. First, we need to have a vision. We need to know exactly where you want to go and what it looks like. And then we put in the pieces. But I'm going to show you how to put the pieces in today. And you can go back and do the vision another time, okay? So for me, the elements of... Oh, hey, Misha, you're welcome. For me, the elements of self-care that I needed to get me where I want to go were extensive, only because I was so severely burnt out and I was so severely depleted. And so you might freak out at this big list of stuff that I'm about to go I'll just list it off real quick. And you won't perhaps need all of that, and that's okay. But for me, I needed movement, but not aerobic high intensity exercise, because I was in adrenal fatigue and that would just push me over the edge even more. So I needed gentle movement like walking or Pilates. I needed anti-inflammatory, immune boosting. Well, actually, I'll show you this in a bit. It's a drink. It's one drink that I make, and I'm going to give you the recipe. And it's like my essential thing that I make for myself. The one thing, apart from my smoothie, that I do every day. So it's this one drink. And then, of course, because I had the test results and I knew exactly what was going on with me biochemically, I then was prescribed some supplements. So there were those 3 things. But because I had neglected myself for so long, and I was such an active, fit and healthy person, sporty, I loved being outdoors and I loved adventure, but I had just not done that for so long that my body needed just to get moving again. I needed to stretch. And so stretching is a big rock for me every day. I have to do it. Nervous system retraining, breath work and affirmation, like that. I cannot tell you how much of an impact breath work has had for me. And it wasn't anything fancy. It was just, in for 4, out for 8. Every time I sat in my car, which is multiple times a day, that was my trigger, and I'll show you later. That was when I did my breath work, and it has just retrained my baseline where my nervous system sits. I wanted to reconnect with some spiritual practices that I used to do that I dropped. So that was a big rock for me. There's quite a few things I'm going to show you. I'm just going to skip this list. But I also, importantly, there's like a dreamy list that you want. Like, of course, like in an ideal world, we'd love to all just go and get a massage every day. We'd like to go do yoga every day. We'd like to, sit at a cafe and have food made for us all day. Like, there's a dream list. And then there's, okay, these are the things that I must do each day. And I have a list of things that I want to do, but I just haven't got to yet. I've also got a list of stuff I'd like to do when I can afford it, like when the finances allow, then there's a few things I'd like to do as well. But that's just sitting there on a list that I know is there. So I haven't forgotten it, but it's just there. So some of the things that, like I said, big rocks to me may not be to you. So what I want to now show you is my I guess the format that just it helped me to finally put the pedal to the metal, put my foot down and go, this is a line in the sand, and I'm now making some changes. I am the type of person, and I know that not everyone is like this, but for me, I'm the type of person who really needs a visual cue. I really need a plan. I really need some triggers in place to help me remember. I really need some backup plans. Like if that happens, then I'm going to do that, because I had failed myself so many times. I had made a decision like, I'm going to start doing that on Monday. And I started on Monday, and then I'll fall off on Tuesday or Wednesday, and I started up on Monday again. And it was becoming years of this, doing this. Even though I was nourishing myself so well, I needed other things to help me get back to where I want to be. And so I needed these systems in place. Some people might look at these systems and go, whoa, that's overkill. But I know that I spoke to some women earlier this year who wanted me to share this with them, and I just didn't create the time to do that. So I'm glad that I get to do it now, and it's what's helped me to take ownership. And so this really is for those people who really are ready to take the reins back in their life. They're really ready to take ownership of their life back and make some real changes that stick. So here we go. Let's show you the schedule. Enough talking. All right, I'm going to share this with you. Can someone tell me in the comments if you can see that? You might need to if you're on your phone, you might need to put your phone on the side. I wonder if I can make myself a bit smaller. Is that better? Maybe that's a bit better. Tell me in the comments if you can see that. This is, of course, a blank one. Yeah, thanks, Misha. Okay, so I'm actually going to give you a copy of my example filled in plus this template, so you can just run with it. It is just a very basic schedule. Like you can see, it's just Monday to Sunday, and the times are, in 15-minute increments down the side, right? It's very basic. For those just joining, I just want to preface this by saying that this really is for those people who are just ready to really make some changes that stick in their life, ready to take the reins back in their life. And this is what worked for me. So someone else, okay, yeah, no worries. For that person who just said that you haven't received the emails, just it's actually on Messenger. So what I'll do is I'll just pin the registration link to the top of the Facebook group. I think it's there already somewhere. And also what I wanted to say just before I dive into the schedule, what I wanted to say is that I forgot to tell you, I've actually opened the doors to the No Fuss Fam. That's my coaching membership where I actually spend time with women every week, and I give them just one thing. And it's not usually an hour long. Like we've been doing, quite long trainings this week, but I try to keep it shorter. And it's something that is just your one thing, your one best next step to take in that week. We have monthly Q&As where you can pick my brain about anything, whether it's a coaching issue, like a challenge that you're facing with your family and how do you navigate that, or for your own life. And there's a clear path forward as to how you can navigate nourishing yourself and your family without all the fuss. It's something that doesn't need to take up all of your headspace. You can just kind of block out everything else and hone in on this one thing. So we've actually had, I won't bother telling you about that, but I wanted to tell you that there is a link in the description of this post to join now. It's only open for a few days. I haven't properly opened the doors since we first started, which was over a year ago. I'm not the best at growing this membership. It's something that I love to be in and that I go about my life, and I haven't actually put a whole bunch of effort into growing it. But I feel like maybe it's time to start doing that, but I don't want to grow it too big because I love how intimate it is. I love that I love that we can spend time and we get the same women asking questions and they get to have multiple touch points. And if it does grow to the point where I need to, we can have weekly Q&As, who knows. But I love that there's somewhere for these women to go where they can get support in knowing how to nourish their kids without them necessarily even knowing. There are so many things we can do, not even talking about hiding veggies in meals or anything like that. That's not what it's about. There are so many things you can do to lift the health of your family, even if they're not willing. You know, they're not even really going to notice. There's so many things you can do. There's an entire module on how to approach fussy eating with kids. There's so many different topics that we talk about, but I can, you know, once you join, then I can help have a bit of a chat with you online and help direct you to the best place for you to start. Lots of simple swaps. There's lots of goodies in there. I know Misha's here. She's a member as well. All right, let's show you this this schedule of mine. Is this showing? Here we go. Back to here. Okay, so this is the blank one. I hope you can see it. I really do, because I'm about to show you a whole bunch of stuff on here. Obviously, this is where you can start. So if you can just identify when you want to wake up and when you want to go to sleep, because that's big rock. Number one is it should be sleep. For me, I have figured out that I can get 8 hours of solid sleep in this schedule and fit all the other stuff in. The purpose of this schedule is not to feel regimented. I used to live that way. I used to live in such a regimented, by the minute way. And I had a schedule like this that I would, you know, live by. But I threw all that away years ago. And now it feels very different. The approach that you take with a document like this can be vastly different to what it may have looked like for you in the past, or what it may have felt like for you in the past. So for me now, it's more of a rhythm. This is a beautiful document that creates and allows time in my life for all the things that I want and that I need, that's going to take me where I want to go. And for that reason, I adore this schedule now, which I never follow perfectly, by the way. I'm learning to just incorporate it and build it in as a rhythm in my life. And week after week after week after week, I just get that little bit more honed in and that little bit more automatic with it, so that I can fit more of these, you know, things in comfortably. You can just start with just doing 2 things, and then you just build in another few things, and then another. And like, that's how I would do it. So the first thing that I wanted to do was to decide what time I was going to wake up. But when I do that, this is one of my big rocks. I get up. This is I have always been a morning person, so don't freak out. You can tweak it to whatever lifestyle you want, but that's 5 a.m. I get up, I just quickly get changed. Then I do my stretching. And I have an injured neck of about 20 years ago, so I have to do some neck exercises. So I do that then. I take some supplements, and then I have my immunity drink. I'll tell you what that is in a minute. And I do my first breathing for the day. Now, the breathing is like 5, maybe 10 minutes if I'm a bit more, if I've got lots of time. It doesn't have to take a long time. You can see there that I've allowed half an hour for this. And then I do my affirmation. The affirmation is basically linked in with what we spoke about yesterday. It's all about what you want your life to look like. Where do you want to go? And you get very specific about it. And you list how you want to be, like how you want to show up in your life for yourself, for those you love. What legacy do you want to leave? What kind of energy do you want to bring? There's lots of things, like that's a whole training in itself. But I have just a very short one, like a summarized one on my phone in notes, and I just pull it up and I just read it to myself. I just, like, it's not a big deal, doesn't take long. I just read it and it reminds me, and it sets my day up to feel into that version of me. So that's what I do first thing. The immunity drink, you guys, is something that I love because 1, it's anti-inflammatory. 2, it's building your immune system. And 3, sorry, I've just lost my place. Give me 1 second. And 3, sorry, I've just I've got these things popping up on my screen. I'm just going to deal with that. So the immunity drink that I have every morning is anti-inflammatory. It's a boost to your immune system. And importantly for me, because I had all that bloating going on from that gut permeability, it actually helps increase stomach acid as well and bile. And so I was able to digest my food better. And result was that I didn't bloat as much. So that there were the 3 benefits of that particular drink. And it's amazing to me that the kids now love it too. Actually, one of my 13-year-old said, "Mum, how do you make that drink today?" Like she was home, not feeling 100%, not sick, but not feeling 100%. She was like, "Mum, I need that drink. What's the recipe?" And she just made it. And it's so simple. I'll give it to you tomorrow, but it's just ginger, turmeric, lots of water, lots of lemon, and a couple of other little things in there. So I will give that to you tomorrow. But that's what I have each morning. So let's come back here. Oops. Okay, so you can see here that the weekend's a little bit different, but you can see that the same things are there each day, but I sleep in a bit on the weekend, yeah? So the next one, the next big rock is movement, and you can see that's the addition of those green cells, and you can just take this template that I'm going to give you. It's actually already in the description of this post. There's a link there, and that will automatically create a copy of this template schedule for you. There's 2 tabs. One's got my schedule example and one's got a blank template. But you can see here all the green ones, like I just wanted to start gentle. So once I've gotten up and done my stretching and taken my supplements and done a little bit of breathing and affirmation, which I can tell you, again, there's no perfection about this. Some days I do half of that stuff and some days I do all of that stuff. That's okay. Then I go for a walk. And for me, like this may not be one of your rocks, but I wanted to return to those spiritual practices, remember, that I had given up on and I had sort of lost along the way. And one of those things was like decent prayers where I actually felt connection. And so, I found it very difficult to do that at home. I would get distracted. My mind would wander. And if you're not a person who prays, that's totally fine. Just replace it with gratitude and with thoughtfulness and mindfulness about your life. Because what I have found is that I'm not going to do that at home very well because there's so many distractions. There's always an opportunity for me to get up and do something else. But if I'm walking for half an hour, apart from resisting the urge to listen to a podcast, there's nothing else for me to do. And so I will literally use that time to do my prayer. And so I will go through the elements of my life and I'll consider the people who I care about, like, how can I best help them? And I will think that through. And again, like if it's not a prayer for you, like think about what's the one thing that you can do. Like it's an opportunity for you to get in touch with what's important for you that day. Who are the people you love? What are they struggling with? How can you help them? Can you, get them in touch with someone else to, support them in this way or whatever it might be. And if nothing else, just gratitude for the beautiful trees and the birds. And that has just been such an amazing contribution to my day. So that's my walking. And you can see that there's Pilates there, but I have not done that yet. I need to find an at-home Pilates thing. If anyone knows a good at-home Pilates app, swing it to me. I would love to see it. So the next thing on the schedule is actually, again, how I said I abandoned those spiritual practices. One of those things was just having a really good read and a really good study of some principles and some topics that are really meaningful to me. And so, sometimes I'll do like a topic study. Like on one time I was just this was probably a decade ago. I was really struggling with the topic of patience. That was probably, if for those who listened in yesterday, that might have been the start of that random rage coming in on that, the hormonal test that I did showed that my estrogen hormone responsible for random rage was off the charts. Maybe that's why I did the study on patience. I don't know. But I found all the references I could about patience and I made like a mind map. And you may not want to do that, but if there's something that you have abandoned in your life that you wanted to reclaim, or maybe you just want to read a really good book that you feel is going to give you wisdom, just something that is going to contribute to your life, you can pop it there. Like, that's just an example of what I was doing there. Now, the next one is do you remember when I said that the biggest change for me in reclaiming myself out of that burnout mode was breathing? And it's not even fancy breath work, like I said, it's just basic, slowing it down. It's the only scientifically proven way to actually reduce stress, the stress response in the moment. And I cannot tell you what a massive difference it's made for me. So there are various triggers in my day. One, as you can see here, is on waking. And the next is right before school pickup. And the reason for that is that I was finding that I would race from my laptop where I was working for the day, and I would leave it to the very last minute because that's been my nature for so long. And I would race to school because I'm late. And then I'd take all the energy from rushing and all the energy from work and the problems I was trying to solve, or the frustrations with tech or whatever it was. And I wouldn't be ready to greet the kids at school. I wouldn't be ready to put the to take the work hat off and put the mum hat on. And I had no chance. Like, I was kind of living up here on this adrenaline, and everything was just kind of up in my chest. Whereas now I have found that if I just take a minute between roles, between working and then being a mum again, if I take a minute to ground and just do 5 minutes of breathing, I've got meditation on that schedule too, but I haven't actually done that yet. If I can do just the 5 minutes of breathing and lay down and just kind of detach from work and connect with my awesome role of being a mum, then I just am such a better mom. So that's something that's meaningful to me. And then again at nighttime, right before bed, I just try to do a little bit of breathing. Often I fall asleep as I'm doing it. But between then, it's just every time I get in the car, it's just an easy trigger for me because I'm in there so much. If I'm driving by myself to anywhere, I will just be doing my breathing. That's probably a topic for another day, as to what type of breathing to do and when, all the rest of it. And it's not my specialty, but it certainly has been super helpful for me. Now, like I said, moving on to that next one, I'm just kind of adding a layer in each new screen that I show you. But sleep, please build in a good hygienic sleep system. Like, good hygiene with sleep means like not having like screens right before you fall asleep, and making sure you've got enough hours of sleep. And I'll just leave it there for tonight. But the sleep that I've got there is like 8 hours a night, and I'm a heavy sleeper. My kids are always telling me that they come in, they try to wake me up and they shake me and I still don't wake up. And poor Jordan is such a light sleeper that he's always the one that gets up. So that's sleep. Now, one thing, I'm moving on to the next one here. You can see it's always in green, the new one. One thing that I have wanted to start doing more, because when you're in survival mode like I was for 10 years, you just don't have the bandwidth like you did to connect with the people that you want to connect with outside of your immediate family. Friends, extended family kind of fall by the wayside unless they are really persistent friends. And that was something that I wanted to change once I got myself up and out of that survival mode. And so you can see here, and you can see here that at 8:30, I'm theoretically meant to be driving from school back to home. It's never that time because we're never at school that early. But theoretically, but like I said, this is a rhythm. And so it's just when I drive home from school, that's when I do it. I would just place a quick phone call to an extended family member or to a friend just to connect, say, hi, I'm thinking of you. That's how we can deepen those relationships that we want. I'm in quite a few different Facebook groups with mums in there, local Sunshine Coast ones or wherever. And I've been really amazed, I've been really amazed at the number of posts, now that you can post anonymously, there's a lot of that going on. A lot of anonymous posts going on saying, I can't make friends. I'm a mum now, I've moved here and I just don't know how people are making friends. I'm really lonely. Is there someone else in this situation who can reach out? We are a lonely generation of people that's becoming more common. Hopefully not for you, but if that is you, I'd suggest just doing this one thing, like just once a day, just even if it's not a phone call, or maybe it's a text, and you can just reach out to someone that you used to be friends with and just connect with them. So that's been really nice for me. And then you can see here that once I go into work mode at about 10 o'clock, I've given myself just a few minutes of life admin, because otherwise that never gets done, like school notes signing and whatever else. But that's when I'll also just shoot off a text message to someone in the family, like my brother or my, whoever. The only other green one here for family and friends. Oh, yeah, that's right. So on Sunday is a bit of a planning morning for me, and that's the day. It sounds like, when I'm saying this out loud, it actually does sound so regimented, but I promise you it's not. It is quite a natural, free-flowing rhythm rather than having to tick everything off the list and make sure I'm doing this at this time. This just allows me space to make sure it's actually possible to do everything I want to do, and it is. So on Sunday, I'll plan like a catch up, like a girls' night or something for the month. Like, I just want to make sure I'm doing like something once a month with some friends. And to be honest with you, I found myself in a position where I'd let all my friendships go and I wasn't investing myself in any friendship. There was one of my friends who was incredibly persistent and understanding, and she just kept showing up, which was such a blessing. But yeah, it's like now up to me to then reach out to those people that are in my life. Like, they're there, but they've become more acquaintances than friendships. And so now it's up to me to like deepen that. So that's the kind of stuff. So then, every Sunday evening, it's realistically probably every second one that I do it, in the afternoon and the evening, I'll invite a family over for dinner, just to share a meal together. And usually they've got, sometimes it's strategic for our kids. Like if I've got a particular child who might be struggling with a friendship issue or whatever, I'll make sure that I invite a family that who has a child their age, and it just, broadens their social network too. I feel like this is probably not the topics that you were expecting to be talking about tonight. And it's really like, I'm finding myself uncomfortable. And I think it's because it's just so left of center to what I normally share with you about nutrition. And it's so personal too. And it's such an interesting feeling that I'm feeling right now. And I'm only doing this because it was asked of me so much when I asked everyone what you want to learn about. It was this. It was, how do all the pieces of life fit together, and what does it look like? So I hope you're getting something out of this. Let me know if you are. Now, the next thing is family leadership and just family life. And so this is the bulk of the week. Having 5 kids, this is kind of takes up a lot of my time. So 6:45 hits. It's, like I said, not necessarily 6:45, but on the schedule, that's kind of where it is. But in the morning, I'll wake the kids up, I get myself ready, do breakfast and lunches, and ideally try to leave the kitchen in some resemblance of not chaos, because it just cuts into my day too much if I leave it till after then. But it kind of has been doing that a fair bit lately. So I've just, it's a good reminder to have it on the rhythm sheet to sort of remind me, oh yeah, that's right, I've got to just try to fit that in somehow. And then we leave for school. For us, we do, try to do a bit of a family prayer before we leave. And again, if you're not a faith-based family, replace it with something else. Just say, hey, what are you grateful for today? What's the one thing you're most looking forward to today? And trying to train that positive mindset to, help them see the potential in the day. After that breathing exercise after work, and it's about to go to school pickup time, that's when the chaos begins, right? That's when the chaos begins. And so for me, like, it's all over the place here, because the kids all have different things on. We've got horse riding and OzTag and touch footy and soccer, and 2 of the girls now work out in the community. There's a lot to juggle. And so I'm not going to bore you with all the details here, but I know that some things that you wanted to know about was dinner prep and how does that all fit in. So that's what I'm going to share with you now. So I'll drop on a Monday, I'll drop Sophia to horse riding. She works there straight after school. We go and she works for the afternoon. Then she has her lesson, cleans up the horse, and it's like 7 p.m. by the time she's home. And she does that twice a week. And so I don't stay around and wait for her. She kind of works for that second lesson there at the stables. And then we're home hopefully by about 4. And again, ideally, the little two are doing their homework, but that barely happens, to be honest. And I'm okay with that, to be honest, at that age. I really don't care much about homework. But they're usually sitting up on the stools at the kitchen bench while I'm prepping dinner. And so then I can, if they are doing their homework, I can help them with their homework while I'm doing dinner. And then they can also, it goes 2 ways. Like if they're finished, I might just pass them a chopping board and a knife and they can help me prep dinner. It becomes like a bit of a reciprocal, nice experience sometimes. In an ideal world, we're eating at 5. But again, it doesn't always happen that way. On that Monday, the kids and Jordan clean up dinner, and then I'll go and pick up Sophia from horse riding. And when I get back, we do bedtime, etc., and say goodnight to the big girls. So you can see there that no one's really helping me with dinner officially that night, but on a Tuesday, Lila is, because the kids, if you've been tuning in to some of my other trainings, I'm a huge believer in sharing the load when it comes to dinner prep in your family and even jobs around the house as well. Like everyone has a job they do for the day, and sometimes their job for the day is helping prep dinner. They all have an assigned day, and on that assigned day, they don't have to do their regular job for the day, and they don't have to help clean up after dinner. That's the deal. So some of them actually love it when it's their day to do dinner. Lila's 15, so she's old enough to prep dinner by herself. If I'm there and available, then I'll help her too. But that's the day that I've kind of earmarked to have dinner at the beach. So she kind of gets a little bit of a free pass card because, beach dinners, typically a burger, made on the barbecue. And all she has to do is just prep some, chop some tomatoes and cheese or whatever, a salad to put with the burger. So she's got it kind of easy that night. On the other nights, Sophia, so I'm out for the whole afternoon. So this is the kind of details that I think people wanted to know, is that how do you do it with, I've got 2 sporting activities, one for Rose, one for Max on a Wednesday, straight from school, not home till probably 5:30-ish, maybe 5:45. And then when do you make dinner? So for my particular circumstance, I do have a daughter home who's old enough to be home without me, who can prep dinner that night. So that's a night for her to have dinner ready. And so it doesn't, sometimes I will half prep it during the day if I'm home, and just to give her a hand, because she's only 13, so she's confident, but I still like to give her a bit of help if I can. And so I feel like you guys can just look at the rest of the schedule or just pick out the bits that I think you're most interested in. Thursday is the day that I actually try sometimes to stay at horse riding to watch and take videos. She loves to have the videos of her doing the horse riding. So sometimes I'll stay, and on that night, Kaya will prep dinner. She's the eldest, she's 17. I know that you guys don't necessarily have as many older kids as I do, and I haven't always done this. This has been a fairly new thing where I have actually been able to go, here, make dinner. Here's an idea for you to make, or, we've agreed on one earlier. And so that is something that has not always been the case, but you just have to shift your expectations of what your rhythm or schedule can look like according to what season of life you're in. And you may also have a full-time job where, your schedule looks different to mine. And that's okay too. There have been seasons of time in my life where I haven't had the luxury of time to always be as flexible as this rhythm shows you. So just work with it. And this is just one way of a gazillion ways that you could do life. So on that day here, which is, I think, a Thursday, it's actually changed. I'll tell you that that's now a Friday. So I'll talk to you about that now. On a Friday afternoon, Rose and I will prep dinner. She's the youngest, she's 7. And so she's definitely not able to do a whole meal, of course. So I will prep dinner and she will be there helping. And so that's the point where it's a training opportunity, because she's looking at her elder sisters and not really her brother. Her brother's still quite young too. And seeing the creations that they come up with for themselves. Like our eldest Kaya, she is a whiz in the kitchen. She, like, for her own lunch, she'll just make, anyway, I don't have to bore you, but she's a great cook and she knows how to look after herself. And the others are following suit as well. And so for her, she, she wants to learn and become capable like them. And so she's very keen to help, and it's awesome. So that's an opportunity. And if you're not taking that opportunity to train your child, oh, you're missing out. And your child's missing out too, because Kaya will be moving out of home next year. She's 17. And if she's going to uni elsewhere, then she's going to be on her own. When I moved out of home, I didn't even know how to cook anything. My roommate had to teach me something because she saw me just eating a red capsicum for dinner one night. She's like, Lainey, do you need a hand? And she taught me how to make a sausage casserole. We still make it sometimes today. And so I want my kids to have the skills to look after themselves and know how to nourish themselves. And so this dinner, like helping with dinner prep, even if you're not giving it to your older kids, just have them help a little bit. It all helps with their capability, their self-confidence, and their ability to care for themselves and others as well. On that Friday now, Jordan actually comes home from work early on a Friday. And so we take it in turns to take one of the kids out on a date. It's not often that kids get one-on-one time with their parent if there's multiple siblings in a family like ours with 5 kids. And so it's really important that they feel cared for in that one-on-one environment if you can. It doesn't have to be like what they'd get once every 5 weeks, they're going to get a date with a parent. It's not even that much. But if we don't put it in the rhythm or the schedule, it just doesn't happen. Like it's an ideal. Like how many things have you got as an ideal in life that you just never get to? This is one of those things that we just wanted to make sure it was a big rock, something that didn't get missed. And so on a Friday, it doesn't have to be expensive. Sometimes we just go down to the beach for a walk. Maybe we'll get them an ice cream. Sometimes, one of them loves like the treetop challenge. What do you call that? Like the high ropes course. So once in a blue moon, you could do something exciting like that, but it doesn't have to be that. You can just spend time together, and it makes the world of difference. I remember Lila, who's now 15, she was the quietest little 5-year-old. Like when she was so quiet and she'd sit there sucking her fingers and kind of observing the world and not saying much. When we took her out on a date, she transformed and she was like chat, 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 chat. And she was just the most adorable little chatterbox. We're like, who are you and where did you come from? And it's just so beneficial to be able to do that. So if you're not currently doing it, get on it. Okay, right now we're talking about family leadership and family, just living as a family and family admin. That's what the green that we're looking at now. I'm not sure if anyone's joined us and going, what the heck is she talking about? And what am I looking at? So on this Saturday, since we're still talking about family stuff and the big rocks in family, this is changing all the time now because our eldest two have jobs that are usually working on a Saturday. Then there's birthday parties and there's stuff that interferes. And like I keep saying, we do not follow this perfectly. But in an ideal world, if there's a spare Saturday, that's when we're going to do a fun activity together. And it just might be something super simple for an hour. Sometimes we might just take the dogs down to the dog park or for a walk on the beach or whatever. But we just want to do something as a family on the Saturday if we possibly can. The kids will all have a weekend job each. So they have that daily job that's just a quick little thing. And then the weekend job is just that little bit bigger, but it's age appropriate. And it's funny. I was on a Facebook page where someone was saying that they don't believe kids should do any jobs and that they should just be kids and that we should do everything for them. And I was like, oh, they got me in the heart because, again, when I moved out, I didn't even know how to clean a toilet. My beautiful mother did everything for us because it was easier that way sometimes. I'm sure we can all relate to that. But I didn't know how to do anything. And I remember my roommate leaving for the day and saying, left a note. She said, Lainey, can you clean the toilet can you clean the bathroom and the shower and the toilet while I'm gone today? I was like, yes, I'm going to do it. So I did it. And she came home, she said, "Why didn't you clean it?" I'm like, "I did clean it. It's just obviously not very well." So anyway, I think it's so important that kids learn this stuff. Um, and obviously just picking up kids from work, et cetera, et cetera. I said this the other day on the Monday night training when we talked about family meals and how we love to just do once a week out of the beach or something. Especially this time of year, have you noticed how beautiful it is outside when you're eating dinner inside and when you're cooking dinner inside? It's that time of day, that the golden hour, as they call it, that is just gorgeous. And every time I happen to go out to, like, I don't know, pick up an ingredient for the dinner I'm making at home, and I go outside and I'm like, oh, it's really nice out here. I don't want to be home making dinner. I should be out. And so sometimes I just want to make a point of, like, taking the family out for golden hour and doing like a little bike ride around the neighborhood or a little dip at the beach or something. And again, this doesn't happen every Saturday, but it's just a reminder. It has a place on my rhythm so that if the stars align, that's what we're going to do. I won't talk about that tonight. Now on a Sunday morning, like I said, that's a bit of like the planning morning for me. And that's when I want to, like, we have a family night, like a family meeting. I'm going to call it a family meeting on a Sunday. And before that meeting is my planning session. And in that planning session, I like to meet with one of the kids and just touch base with them about leading the meeting for the next week or whatever, and ask them if there's a topic that they would like to talk about, whether it's a principle or, like, sometimes as a family we like to just do a little take 5 or 10 minutes to just talk about a principle of life. And, sometimes it's even more powerful if one of the kids can lead that. And of course, they might need a bit of assistance and a bit of prompting according to their age. But that's when I just like to pull them aside and just check in on them. And sometimes the two of us will sit with a child and just ask them how life is going for them. Just take that opportunity to just have that 2-on-1 and just go, is there anywhere that you need support that you're not getting it? How is life looking for you? What are you loving? Like, what's hard? Is there some dynamics in the family? With 4 siblings, there's always a dynamic that's a bit off. And so, stuff like that. Like, that's just kind of that opportunity. And again, it doesn't happen every week, but it's there, and it's printed on paper. And so it kind of helps us to get it done when we can. So guys, that's kind of the family. That one took a long time, didn't it? On the Sunday night is, got to hunt for the uniforms too, of course. But the other thing people were asking me about, the next one, there's just a few more, is like, how do you manage the house? I'm the first to put my hand up and say, look, my house is actually usually a bit messy. Like, that's just life. I'm not the person that has it all together when it comes to having a clean house. I don't have a cleaner. And, the kids have jobs each day, but historically, when I was in survival mode, I wasn't in the habit of following up with them. And so they weren't raised in the last decade to consistently be doing those jobs. And so now it's a bit of an effort to, like, get that new training into them. And so, it's not perfect. So, I don't do everything, and we can't tick all the boxes, right? But what I have tried to build in as part of my new project, Lainey, because one of the things that I really like, I did identify that the state of disorder in the house was a contributor to stress in the family. And my number one obsession was to reduce that stress down, right? And so I knew that things had to change. Like, I had to, fold the washing more frequently and, have a dedicated spot for the clean socks if they're not paired, stuff like that. And so this is the only things I've got down for, like, home management is this. So when I get back from school, after I've, like, called that family or friend on the way home that I spoke about, this is when I'll then put a podcast on. There's so many podcasts that I love to listen to. So it's enjoyable. It becomes an enjoyable task then. And so that's when I just make sure I've done a load of washing and I clean one thing. Sometimes all I can get to is just to restore the kitchen to some resemblance of order after breakfast and making lunches. That's it. But I will often try to just do one thing, like clean out a shelf of the pantry or do a vacuum or like clean a toilet, like just one thing. And then combined with the kids' jobs that they're doing, then it's usually enough to get by. So that's kind of what we do there. But the only thing I wanted to mention here is on Friday, this is my 15-minute meeting with myself. Now, that is basically just meal planning. So it's when I look at the next week ahead and I just figure out what's on and when and what's actually realistic in terms of meal planning. How many times have you made a meal plan and decided on what you're going to cook, and then you're like, oh, hang on, we're out at soccer until 6 p.m. and I don't have time to make that thing, or whatever. You know where I'm going with this. Like, you have to make a realist, like you have to look at your life first and your meals second. And so that's when I do that, because after I've done that quick meeting with myself, and literally it's probably more like 10 minutes now that I've done it so many times and I'm in such a rhythm, coordinated with school lunch planning and all the rest of it, I'm going to actually do a bit of a training about school lunches as a bonus training next week. And as part of that, I'm going to touch on meal planning, because for me, you can't separate them. My meal planning kind of revolves around school lunches and stuff, so I don't have to put so much effort into school lunches. But after that meeting with myself, I'll do the Woolies order. At Woolies, I'll get some things, mostly the school, like the packet things for school lunches. And I've shared recommendations for packets for school lunches inside the school lunch program within the membership, within the No Fuss fam. I will maybe be able to share some of those if I've got time next week as well. But most of my shopping's done at like the farmers market. And now, because we're trying to save on our food budget, because cost of living's gone through the roof, as I'm sure you're all feeling as well, I'll swing past Aldi on the way home for some of their organic dairy stuff, mostly, or organic frozen stuff is, I'm yet to do that recommendation list for Aldi that I promised you guys. So that's Friday. It literally takes 15 minutes to do both of those things once you're in a bit of a rhythm. On Saturday, this is where, again, like right now, for anyone who's just joined right now, we are talking about the rhythm of my week. And right now, the part that we're talking about is like the home management and like food shopping and cleaning, and like, where does that all fit and what does it look like on Saturday? This is my rhythm around shopping. So I will get up and I'm forced to do it quite early, because Kaya, our eldest, she works at Guzman and Gomez, which is like a Mexican restaurant, and they start breakfast. And so she starts at 5:30 in the morning on a Saturday. So although I've got a sleep in listed on a Saturday, quite often I'm not, because I've got to drive her to work. Which every time I do, I'm glad that I was forced into it, because what I do is this. I drop her at 5:30. I go straight to the farmer's market and I'll do my shopping. I'm very quick. I can be in and out there in 20 minutes. I have it down to a fine art. I know who I go to for what, and I get really good deals. And then I pop it in the car, and I've started to go to Parkrun. If you guys haven't tried Parkrun, it's this free volunteer run based event that happens all around the world. Here on the Sunshine Coast, there's probably, 10 different locations they do it in. It's just a 5-kilometer run, but you're not racing or walk. You're not racing against anyone else but yourself. You get timed each week. You've got an app and you can kind of see how you're progressing. And it's just a very social, casual, beautiful thing. The one I go to is along the beach, and it's got the most beautiful views, and it's gorgeous. And so I've started to go there. Jordan's now doing the smoothie van there as well. So I'll try to get to the park run for 7. And then I get to swing past the beach on the way home for a little quick dip and a bit of sunshine. And it's just become like this task of having to drive our child to work at some ungodly hour of a Saturday morning and having to go do the food shopping has now become this most beautiful part of my week. And I adore it. And so then I'll swing past Aldi to get those few things on the way home. Then I get home, and that's when I will do the part that historically I have dreaded the most, which is the unpacking of the shopping. And I'll try to make sure the fridge is done as my one thing that I clean on the previous day, on the Friday, because I hate having to come home and have to clean out the fridge before you put it all away. It's so annoying. Like, please tell me that you can relate to that. I really just want to cut that down. So on Friday, I'd just like to kind of clean out the fridge briefly as my one thing that I clean after the school drop off in the morning. And then on Saturday, it's ready for me to just pop everything into the fridge. I don't know that I shared with you in this main group. I know I have in the No Fuss Fam group my recommendations for how to store things in the fridge to make it really easy and accessible and visual for everyone. Let me know if I didn't, and I'll show you a photo of my fridge. But that is when I'll unpack the shopping. And if you were at the training yesterday, you would have heard me mention habit stacking. This is one of the most important times in my week where I will implement some habit stacking. When I'm unpacking the shopping, I actually don't put some of that shopping away. I keep it on the bench and I just quickly process it. And the things that I do is this. One, I will make the immunity drink that I told you about, that morning drink that I have every day that now a few of the kids are having every day. So now I've got to make a larger quantity of it. But I will make that drink and I'll put it in the fridge. I'll put it in those like 1 liter glass screw top jars that coconut oil comes in. I just wash them out and I keep them. And so I'll make 2 liters for myself, but now I'm having to make a bit more. And I just line it up on the top shelf of the fridge. It's this beautiful, vibrant yellow liquid that is just such a benefit to our bodies that it's a beautiful thing to see your fridge stocked with fresh produce from the market, your drink ready to go. And the other thing that I'll do is I'll make another big 1 liter of chia pudding. I've given you the recipe for my 2 favorite chia pudding recipes in the free recipe ebook download from Monday night. So I will make a really big one of that and I'll put that in the fridge with the yellow things. And both of those things take a total of 5 minutes to make. It's so quick and easy. And when you attach it to the habit stacking principle of when I unpack my shopping, I put that stuff to the side and I make it, rather than having to put stuff away and then at some other point in the week, try to remember and make time to drag it all out again. And like, it's this whole other session. But if you combine it into one and you just get it done, it's so much quicker. And the other thing that I do 3 things. So the immunity drink, the chia pudding, and smoothie prep. So smoothie prep is just super easy. Like if I've bought sweet potatoes, I'll just put them onto steam while I'm putting the rest of the shopping away. The same with cauliflower. And kale, I'll just rinse it and, take it off the stem and put it in the freezer. Bananas, just chuck it in the freezer bag as well. So like they're very quick and easy, like 1 or 2 minutes each. And so it's probably adding a total of 10 extra minutes onto your unpacking of your shopping schedule or time. But look at the benefit. You've got that morning immunity drink that's anti-inflammatory, boosting your immune system, gets your stomach acid and your bile going so you get less bloating. Like that is just a gold mine right there. You've got your chia pudding for when you're on the run and you haven't had breakfast and you just grab it and go, or you can send it to school for your kids or if they're open to it. Oh, you've got it there as a snack or dessert. It's just there and waiting as the best convenience food ever. And then you've got your smoothies ready to go. Like that is when I mentioned that there were 2 big rocks that I have nutritionally. It's that immunity drink in the morning and my epic smoothie. My epic smoothie, of course, you've probably done our smoothie challenges, so I don't have to harp on about this, but it is very anti-inflammatory because of all the seeds in there and the big knob of ginger that I also put in there as well. It's high fiber. It's got 3 serves of veggies in there. It is just to die for. So they're the things that I do that I habit stack for. I'm a huge believer in that. I took too long to explain that. Here we go. How are we tracking? Someone said, yes, definitely. I dislike having to clean out the fridge as well as put away shopping. Isn't it the worst? It's the worst. All right, we are getting to the end here. Let's see. Okay, so obviously this one's self-explanatory. I've got a big green block here. The other the other pebble in my life is work. I'm learning to make it a pebble instead of a big rock. I love my work so much that I can become obsessive and I can displace things in my life that are of greater importance and things that I love. It's interesting. It's interesting how sometimes we can live out of alignment to our values. I love, like, being a mother is my number one. And I'm not just saying that because it's good to say, like, I am someone that thankfully, I know it's not the same for everyone and that's okay. But for me, being a mother and being my number one, I want that and I love that. And I feel like I live that. But sometimes I catch myself having definitely put the scales of importance and balance of time and effort and priority off kilter. And I'm realizing that I'm diving into my work and it's not in balance. And so for me, I have had to move work down a peg from a big rock to a pebble. And that's a very conscious decision for me. And I don't know if you're the same, but I just felt like sharing that. So that's my schedule, that my time in there for work. And I have had to really condense that down because I used to, in my survival mode, and part of the reason I was in survival mode is because I was so obsessive about work and I loved it so much. I'd be up from 3 a.m. to 7 when the kids woke up working. And then they were little, and then at their nap times, I'd work again. And then when they went to bed, I'd work again. And it was ridiculous. And so now I have that green dedicated spot. And apart from nights like this, where we, do get together and have some live trainings and things, that's just when I work. And it's been a beautiful shift for me. Jordan, if you have a partner, isn't it interesting that it feels odd that I've put him on the schedule that is on that it's part of the rhythm. But the rhythm, remember, the rhythm is all about, or the schedule is all about creating and making space for the things and the people who are of most importance to you and helping you remember to live in alignment with your values. And so Jordan is on the schedule, but his green squares aren't as big as the other ones. That's why all of a sudden I find it a bit of a laugh. It's funny. Anyway, but one of the things that we discovered when we did our marriage counseling is that we don't communicate every night. Like we don't always, it's not that we don't want to, but I'm sure you can relate if you have a partner at home that life is full, right? You've got kids, you've got jobs, you've got the kids have activities on most nights when they get older, and you're just here, there, and everywhere, and you just flop into bed at the end of the night. But we have now committed to communicating each night. Most nights, you can see there's not here every night because sometimes we're out doing things with the kids. And we just say, we just touch base about the day, and ask them, if they need anything, or was there anything that you wanted to raise? Did you get annoyed by anything today? Is there anything that I did that didn't, it's not always talking about the negative stuff, but you know what I mean? You're just touching base about life and your relationship and them as a person, just being a partner. So I've had to put it in there because I want to remember. I want to remember to do that. It's not because it's a task and it's a have to do, but it's just there. Friday night is date night for us. It's tradition now. The kids are so excited for every Friday night because they know that they're going to get a movie night and they're going to get some yummy treats and we're going to go out for the night. And so thankfully for us, our older kids, they're 17 and they babysit for other people sometimes. They're certainly old enough to babysit for us. And so we are very lucky in that situation where we can that's blocked in. And so Friday night's date night, that's what we do. One thing that then the next topic is just reading. It's just so quick. Reading dropped off the face of the earth, but it's something that I love to do. And so I've made some time in there in the evenings before going to bed to read, but I haven't been the best at doing that because the schedule doesn't always get lived to. And so things creep down into later at night and I miss that time, but that's in there. There's the last one is just a couple of things I do to detox, but that's it. I feel like this is now the finished one. And you can see there that it might look overwhelming and a bit regimented to you, but to me, that is just the most beautiful sight to me, because I know that all of the things that I like, where I want to go in life, if I can just start to live my life by that rhythm a bit more each week, just getting a little bit better at each week, then eventually I'm going to get to where I want to go in life. And in the meantime, I've recovered from burnout and being frazzled. Isn't that just the most beautiful thing? And so for right now, in this season of life that I'm in, Project Lainey, that's what a week in the life looks like for us. And it was interesting that it was asked, quite a few times to show it. I still feel a bit awkward about it, but I hope that it has been of benefit to you. When it comes to taking ownership of our life, I just feel like, what you do to do that, it doesn't need to look the same as mine. You don't need to have a schedule. Sure, like your brain might work just fine deciding that you want to do something and doing it. But for me, even with the schedule, it didn't necessarily always happen. So this is now, I want to show you this last thing. Share screen. Let's see if I've got it here. Okay, so this is my little tracker. It just helps me. I'm someone who get a bit of a dopamine hit when I tick a box. And it motivates me. It motivates me to do a bit better next week than I did last week. You know what I mean? So this is very simple. I've given you a copy of it in the description of this post. You click the link and it automatically makes a copy of this. Obviously, you're going to edit it for your own big rocks. So this is the column. I'm actually going to type in here, big rocks. They're your big rocks. And any big rock that you have, you're going to put in there. And then I printed it and laminated it, and it just sits on my fridge. Number one, it helps me with motivation because it's fun for me to tick boxes and see progression. But two, by default, I'm held accountable to my family, and my kids notice. They're like, Mum, you haven't ticked that box for like 3 days. What's going on? and so it's helpful to have your loved ones have your back. And sometimes they can get critical about it, but that's okay. You just got to look through it, the lens of they're supporting me to stay on track. And so that is something that has really helped me. I'm glad someone said, thanks, Lainey, very beneficial, and thanks for your openness and sharing. Thank you. I appreciate that. Sometimes I wonder if I'm like hitting the mark for the people who have asked for it. I do have, I won't show you that one. So are you, I get the question is, of those who are here live, and if you're watching the replay for you too, I guess the question is, are you ready to take the reins of your life, ready to take ownership, ready to make some shifts and changes? I think if you've stayed with me this long, you probably are. I think for those people who don't need this right now, they've probably not kept on watching because that was a lot of detail and a lot of screen sharing. So I would totally invite you to take on these tools that I've shared with you. Firstly, take on yesterday's training. Listen to yesterday's replay. Go through the workbook and identify where you are now, where you want to go, how you got to where you are now. What's it going to take for you to get to where you want to go? What does that world look like? And then you just make a big list of stuff. Do a massive big brain dump of all the tiny little things that it's going to take to get you where you want to go. Like for me, something I didn't mention today was like sunshine. I just wanted to get 10 minutes of sunshine a day. That does wonders. And so make that list, and then it's time to edit that schedule template that I've given you. So do you have any questions? It's getting late for a lot of you. It's probably time to go. But remember the principles of if, then, like have a backup plan, have a think through. Like once you've got all the things that you want to do in your life, have a think through like what's going to stop you from achieving that? What might derail you, and what what can you do to make it more likely that you're actually going to do it? And it can take time to move through all those things. When you have a lot of things like I did in Project Laney, a big turnaround of life for me, needed a lot of different things. And so it took me a long time to sit with every item and go, what could derail me and what can I do to, up the chances of me doing this? And so like I got a little table for the book I wanted to write in next to my bed, and like there were things that I put in place to, make sure it happened. Remember habit stacking. Remember that the best way to make a new habit stick is to attach it to an existing habit that you already do. Like for my Saturday mornings when I unpack the shopping, that's when I make the new habits. That's when I do just that little bit of prep for the week. It might be that when you brush your teeth, you listen in to the No Fuss content for the week. That's what I often tell our members in the No Fuss fam, is that if you're having trouble carving out time to listen, when you're in the bathroom, usually, unless you've got little toddlers or babies, usually when you're in the bathroom, you get to be in there alone. And you might be brushing your teeth, doing your makeup for the day if you do that, or like getting changed, whatever it is. Use that time to tune in to someone that is supporting you, someone that can cheer you on, someone that can help direct things in a way that you want it to go. And so as that reminder, we do have the doors to the No Fuss fam open until Wednesday. That's when it's going to close. So if you've been following along this week and you've been enjoying the training, I would love you to join us in the No Fuss fam. And if you've got questions about it, shoot them off my way. Monday lunchtime, we've got a Q&A about anything and everything. Product reviews, like how to navigate things with your partner or with a fussy child, or maybe it's about the stuff that we've been talking about this week, about burnout and about changing life and taking it by the reins, like whatever it might be. I am all ears. Just send me your message on Messenger. And I will add it to that Q&A. And then on Wednesday, there's that bonus training on school lunches. And that's going to be a doozy because lots of people have been asking about that one too. Thank you for being with me tonight. I appreciate your time. Appreciate you being here with me. And for those watching the replay, thanks too. Make sure you comment and let me know your takeaways. Have a fantastic night. Misha says, I have to set an example to my teen of no phones in the bathroom. That's a very good point. Car driving or dishes are my time to listen to things. Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. You got to find what works for you. But I think that's actually such a good principle. Maybe I should do the same thing about the bathrooms and phones and teenagers. Have a great night, everyone. And we'll see you. I won't see you over the weekend. I'm going to kind of go AWOL because I'll be out on this wedding anniversary getaway. I might schedule a few reminders of things, but we'll see. But then I'll see you Monday lunchtime for the Q&A, Wednesday for school lunches, and we'll take it from there. Have a great night. Sleep well.